The distress beacon's message was filled with the dying screams of the Thean people as it reached the UE's Indomitable. No one in the galaxy knew how to fight the relentless Vukari invasion. The Theans, in their desperation, called upon the humans. Captain James Hawkins received their plea. The Vukari had overwhelmed Thean defenses with superior technology and brutal tactics, exterminating and enslaving the Thean population. As Hawkins approached the besieged Thean homeworld, he saw the shattered remains of the once proud Thean fleet, now just lifeless hulks drifting in space. The Vukari forces had landed and swept across the planet, butchering civilians. Thean Ambassador Kos tearfully begged Hawkins to save his people from genocide. Hawkins and his veteran crew were the Theans' last hope. If they failed, an entire species would be wiped out. Hawkins vowed to drive back the invaders or die trying. He had a daring plan to strike at the heart of the Vukari occupation and shatter their command structure, but it would be the hardest mission of his life. As the Indomitable prepared for its desperate assault, Hawkins assembled a squad of his finest soldiers, encased in sleek power armor that enhanced their strength and speed. Kos joined them as their guide, his 4 eyes blinking with determination. They crammed into a dropship that plummeted through the smoke-choked atmosphere of the Thean homeworld. Anti-aircraft fire streaked past the viewports, and the ship barely avoided a missile before setting down in a crater half a kilometer from the enemy command center. The strike team fanned out from the landing site, pulse rifles ready. They advanced cautiously over the rubble of a once great city, its broken spires and toppled monuments testifying to the ferocity of the Vukari assault. Suddenly, plasma bolts sizzled through the air as a Vukari patrol spotted them. The hulking aliens fired from behind a collapsed wall. Hawkins and his team dove for cover. "Light them up," Hawkins barked. The humans opened fire, their high-powered rifles punching holes clean through the Vukari's thick hides. But more hostiles poured in from all directions. The humans formed a perimeter, mowing down wave after wave. Spent ammo casings pinged off the rubble, and the ozone from seared flesh choked the air. Kos proved surprisingly handy with a sidearm for a diplomat, dropping a Vukari who got too close. "We cannot delay, Captain. This way to the command center," Kos urged. They pushed through the ruined streets, dispatching Vukari fire teams with ruthless efficiency. Superior human technology and training made the difference against the invaders' numbers. What they found along the way sickened them: piles of butchered Thean civilians and sobbing survivors being hauled off as slaves. Vukari death squads rampaged unchecked. Hawkins seethed with barely contained fury. They reached the command center, a fortified pyramid bristling with gun emplacements. Getting in would be suicide, but Kos had an idea. "Captain, my intel shows a vulnerable Vukari supply depot 4 kilometers west," he said, pointing to a holo map. "If we destroy their fuel and ammo reserves, it will cripple their ability to wage war." Hawkins grinned savagely. "I like the way you think. Let's give these aliens something to really scream about." They diverted course, blasting their way through occupied territory. Panicked Vukari comm chatter spiked as reports of the human assault spread. The invaders threw everything they had at them, but it wasn't enough. Power-armored human shock troops were an enemy they had never faced before. The supply depot was a sprawling complex ringed with laser cannons, and Vukari transports were loading up with ammo and reactor cores. Hawkins had his target. "Hit them hard and fast. Catch the bastards with their pants down," he shouted. The humans and Kos charged, all guns blazing. Shredded Vukari bodies flew in all directions as pulse rounds found their marks. Hawkins zeroed in on a tower-mounted laser cannon that was pinning his team down with searing blasts. He launched a micro-missile from his suit's shoulder pod. The projectile streaked into the tower's viewport and detonated, exploding in a plume of vaporized metal and flesh. "Move up. Secure the depot," Hawkins roared, taking point. His team stormed the depot gates, cutting down defenders left and right. The Vukari fought like cornered animals, desperate to protect their vital supplies. A plasma bolt clipped Hawkins, searing a gash across his armor. He gritted his teeth and put 2 shots through his attacker's skull. They waded into the thick of it, purple Vukari blood mingling with red human blood. Hawkins was a one-man army, firing and reloading at blinding speed, leading his soldiers by example and courage under fire. Slowly, they beat the enemy back from the depot grounds. Victory was so close Hawkins could taste it. That's when a panicked comm transmission cut through the din of battle. "Captain, massive warp signatures detected." cried his XO. "It's a goddamn invasion fleet. There'll be weapons hot on top of us in minutes." Hawkins looked to the angry red sky as Vukari reinforcements started materializing in orbit, hundreds of fresh enemy ships ready to unleash hell. The Indomitable was the only thing standing between them and the planet. "Take us right at them. Full combat speed," Hawkins ordered over the comm. "Buy us as much time as you can. We'll get this supply depot sorted and give you an opening." He knew he was asking his crew to charge into the jaws of almost certain death, but the Theans were depending on them. The Indomitable couldn't let them down. Hawkins eyed the supply caches full of explosive ordnance. They gave him an idea as desperate and fearless as his ship's attack run. "We're going to blow this whole damn depot to atoms," he told his strike team. "Grab what explosives you can carry, rig them to the ammo dumps and fuel stores. This place is going to light up the whole continent. Let's move like we've got a purpose." They hurried to plant as many charges as possible before the Vukari fleet arrived. No one knew if they would survive, but they were the only hope for the Thean people. They couldn't afford to fail. Hawkins knew he was asking his crew to charge into almost certain death, but the Theans were depending on them. The Indomitable couldn't let them down. Hawkins eyed the supply caches full of explosive ordnance. They gave him an idea as desperate and fearless as his ship's attack run. "We're going to blow this whole damn depot to atoms," he told his strike team. "Grab what explosives you can carry, rig them to the ammo dumps and fuel stores. This place is going to light up the whole continent. Let's move like we've got a purpose." They hurried to plant as many charges as possible before the Vukari fleet arrived. No one knew if they would survive, but they were the only hope for the Thean people. They couldn't afford to fail. As the team worked frantically, setting charges on fuel tanks and ammo stores, the air was thick with tension. Hawkins checked his watch. They had only minutes before the Vukari reinforcements descended upon them. "Hurry up. We don't have much time," he urged. Coes and the soldiers moved with precision, their training evident in their swift, coordinated actions. Explosives were planted in key locations, each charge set to cause maximum destruction. The clock was ticking, and every second counted. "Charges are set," Captain reported Lieutenant Vega, a seasoned soldier with a grim expression. "We should get clear before they blow." Hawkins nodded, signaling his team to fall back to the extraction point. They moved quickly but cautiously through the rubble-strewn streets, aware that the Vukari could attack at any moment. The sound of distant explosions and gunfire echoed through the air, a constant reminder of the ongoing battle. They reached the extraction point, a hidden location where a second dropship awaited them. "Everyone aboard," now Hawkins ordered. The dropship's engines roared to life as the last of the team climbed aboard. They took off, rising rapidly through the atmosphere. Below them, the charges they had planted erupted in a series of deafening explosions. The ground shook as fireballs rose into the sky, the depot's fuel and ammunition igniting in a spectacular chain reaction. The entire area was engulfed in flames, a massive inferno visible even from their altitude. "That should give the Vukari something to think about," Hawkins muttered, watching the destruction below. But there was no time to celebrate. As they ascended, the dropship's sensors detected multiple Vukari ships entering the atmosphere. "We've got company," the pilot warned. Hawkins scanned the display, his jaw tightening. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they couldn't turn back now. "Get us to the Indomitable, full speed," he commanded. The dropship sped towards the waiting human fleet, dodging enemy fire along the way. On board the Indomitable, the situation was dire. The ship was taking heavy damage, its shields faltering under the relentless assault. Hawkins' XO, Commander Reyes, fought to keep the ship in the fight. "Captain, we're barely holding on here," she called over the comm. "Just a little longer," Hawkins replied. "We're on our way." As they approached the Indomitable, the dropship was rocked by a near miss from an enemy laser. "Hang on," the pilot shouted, steering the craft through a hail of enemy fire. They docked with the Indomitable, the crew rushing to offload and prepare for the next phase of their mission. Hawkins didn't waste a moment. "Status report," he demanded. "Shields are down to 20%, multiple hull breaches," Reyes reported. "We're running out of time." Hawkins clenched his fists, determination hardening his resolve. "Prepare for emergency maneuvers. We need to draw their fire away from the planet. We can't let them reach the Theans." The Indomitable's engines roared as the ship powered up for a desperate gambit. Hawkins knew the odds were against them, But he had to buy time for the Theans and his crew. All hands, brace for impact, he ordered. The ship surged forward directly into the heart of the Vucari fleet. Laser fire and plasma bolts streaked past, some striking the hull with shuddering impacts. Hawkins gripped the armrest of his command chair, eyes fixed on the enemy ships ahead. Target their lead ship, he commanded. All weapons, fire at will. The Indomitable's guns blazed to life, sending a torrent of firepower into the Vucari flagship. Explosions rippled across the enemy vessel's surface, but it remained intact. The Vucari responded with a barrage of their own, slamming into the Indomitable with devastating force. Shields failing. Reyes shouted over the din. Hull integrity at critical. Hawkins knew they couldn't take much more. Divert all power to forward shields, he ordered. We need to punch through their line. The Indomitable surged ahead, plowing through the enemy blockade. As they broke through, Hawkins saw an opening. Now, fire everything we've got. The ship's remaining weapons unleashed a final, desperate salvo. The Vucari flagship shuddered under the impact, its hull rupturing in a series of catastrophic explosions. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the Vucari fleet began to fall back, disoriented and leaderless. We did it, Reyes breathed. But Hawkins knew the battle was far from over. Prepare for pursuit, he ordered. We're not letting them get away. The Theans need us. The Indomitable, battered but unbroken, turned to chase the fleeing Vucari ships. The fight for the Thean homeworld was just the beginning. Humanity would stand against the Vucari invaders, a beacon of defiance in the darkness, until every enslaved race was free. The Indomitable, though battered, surged forward in pursuit of the retreating Vucari ships. Hawkins' resolve was unwavering. The Theans and countless other oppressed species were counting on them. Prepare all systems for pursuit and engagement, Hawkins ordered, his voice steady. We're not letting them regroup. As the Indomitable closed in on the Vucari fleet, the human crew worked tirelessly to make necessary repairs and prepare for the next assault. Sparks flew and alarms blared. But there was no room for hesitation. Every member of the crew understood the stakes. Hawkins stood at the bridge, his eyes fixed on the enemy ships ahead. Commander Reyes, give me a status report, Hawkins demanded. Reyes, looking haggard but determined, quickly replied, Captain, we've restored partial shield functionality and weapons systems are back online at 60% capacity. Hull integrity is still critical, but we're holding. Good, Hawkins nodded. We'll use what we've got. Target the nearest Vucari ship and prepare to engage the Indomitable's weapons locked onto the fleeing enemy ships, and with a coordinated effort, they unleashed a barrage of firepower. Laser beams and missiles tore through the vacuum of space, striking the Vucari ships with precision. Explosions blossomed in the void, causing the Vucari formation to falter. Inside the Vucari flagship, chaos reigned. The loss of their commander had thrown them into disarray, and the relentless human assault was pushing them to the brink. Desperate to turn the tide, the Vucari began to regroup for a counterattack. Hawkins anticipated this. For a commander, prepare for evasive maneuvers. They're going to hit back hard. The Indomitable weaved through the battlefield, dodging incoming fire while delivering punishing blows to the Vucari ships. The crew moved as one, their training and determination shining through. As they fought, Hawkins received a transmission from the Thean ambassador, HFY. Captain Hawkins, we have mobilized what remains of our forces to assist. We won't let you fight alone. Hawkins smiled grimly. Glad to have you with us, HFY. Let's show these Vucari that we won't back down. The Thean ships, though fewer in number, joined the fray, their combined might adding to the onslaught against the Vucari. The tide of battle began to turn in favor of the defenders. The Vucari, realizing their defeat was imminent, attempted a last-ditch effort to escape. Hawkins saw their desperation and seized the opportunity. All ships, focus fire on their engines. Don't let them get away. The combined human and Thean forces targeted the Vucari engines, crippling their ability to flee. One by one, the Vucari ships were disabled or destroyed, their remnants drifting aimlessly in space. With the immediate threat neutralized, Hawkins allowed himself a moment of relief. The Indomitable and its allies had achieved a hard-fought victory, but he knew this was just one battle in a much larger war. Commander Reyes, begin recovery operations. We need to help any survivors and assess our next steps. The Indomitable's crew worked to rescue Thean civilians and recover the wounded. The Thean homeworld, though scarred by battle, was still standing. Coes approached Hawkins, his eyes filled with gratitude and determination. "Captain Hawkins, you have our eternal thanks. The Thean people will never forget what you've done for us." Hawkins shook Coes's hand firmly. "We couldn't have done it without you, Coes. This fight isn't over yet. The Vucari will be back, and we need to be ready." Coes nodded. "The Theans will stand with you, Captain. We'll rebuild and prepare for the next battle. Together we will free the galaxy from the Vucari tyranny. As the Indomitable prepared for its next mission, Hawkins addressed his crew. "Today we showed the galaxy that we will not bow to tyranny. We will fight for freedom, for ourselves, and for all those who cannot fight for themselves. The road ahead will be long and hard, but we will persevere. Humanity and its allies will stand as a beacon of hope in the darkness." The crew, battered but resolute, cheered in response. They had faced the Vucari and emerged victorious. The fight for freedom was just beginning, and the Indomitable would lead the charge. With a renewed sense of purpose, they set course for their next destination, ready to continue the battle across the stars until every enslaved race was free and the Vucari were defeated once and for all. The Indomitable sailed through the stars, a symbol of defiance and hope, with Captain James Hawkins at the helm, guiding his crew and allies toward a future where all could live free from oppression. The war was far from over, but with bravery, unity, and unwavering resolve they would prevail. The Indomitable sailed through the stars, a symbol of defiance and hope, with Captain James Hawkins at the helm, guiding his crew and allies toward a future where all could live free from oppression. The war was far from over, but with bravery, unity, and unwavering resolve, they would prevail. As the ship sped through the cosmos, the crew worked tirelessly to repair the damage sustained in the battle. The atmosphere on board was a mix of relief and determination. They had achieved a significant victory, but everyone knew the Vucari would regroup and strike back. Hawkins convened a meeting with his senior officers and Ambassador Coes to plan their next move. "We've dealt a major blow to the Vucari, but we can't rest on our laurels," Hawkins began. "We need to keep the pressure on and strike while they're vulnerable." "Coes, what can you tell us about other Vucari strongholds?" Coes, still shaken but resolute, projected a holographic map of the galaxy. "The Vucari have several key bases throughout this sector. If we can hit their supply lines and communication hubs, we can disrupt their operations and give other enslaved species a chance to rise up." Commander Reyes pointed to a cluster of stars on the map. "Captain, this region here is known for its strategic importance. If we can secure it, we could cut off the Vucari from their reinforcements." Hawkins nodded. "Agreed. We'll need to coordinate with other resistance groups and gather more allies. Coes, can you establish contact with any remaining Thean forces and see if they can join us?" Coes nodded. "I'll send out a message immediately. The Thean people will fight alongside you." The crew sprang into action, preparing for their next mission. As messages were sent and alliances forged, the Indomitable refueled and resupplied, readying itself for the battles to come. Days turned into weeks as they traveled from system to system, rallying support and launching targeted strikes against the Vucari. News of the Indomitable's victories spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Other species, inspired by the humans and Theans, began to resist the Vucari occupation. Hawkins and his crew became symbols of hope, their bravery igniting a flame of rebellion that could not be extinguished. One day, as the Indomitable orbited a liberated planet, Hawkins received an urgent message from the Thean resistance. "Captain Hawkins, we have intelligence that the Vucari are massing their forces for a final, decisive battle. They're targeting a planet of great significance to their empire. If we can defeat them there, it could turn the tide of the war." Hawkins's eyes narrowed. "Where is this planet?" Coes pointed to a distant star on the map. "It's called Zentar. The Vucari have heavily fortified it, but if we strike with everything we have, we can break their hold on the galaxy." Hawkins stood and addressed his crew. "This is it. The moment we've been fighting for. The Vucari think they can crush us with sheer numbers and superior technology, but they underestimate our resolve. We're going to hit Zentar with everything we've got and show them that we will not be enslaved. Prepare for battle." The Indomitable, now part of a larger fleet composed of various allied species, set course for Zentar. As they approached, the Vucari defenses came into view, a massive armada of ships and orbital platforms, bristling with weaponry. The final battle had begun. Hawkins coordinated with the fleet commanders, devising a plan to penetrate the Vucari defenses. We'll use our most agile ships to draw their fire while our heavy hitters target their command centers. Stay focused and remember what we're fighting for. The Allied fleet moved into position, and the space around Centaur erupted into chaos. Laser beams, plasma bolts, and missiles streaked across the void as ships clashed in a deadly dance. The Indomitable led the charge, its guns blazing, tearing through enemy formations. On the surface of Centaur, ground forces engaged in fierce combat. Hawkins, along with a select team of his finest soldiers, led the assault on the Vucari command bunker. They fought through waves of defenders, their determination unyielding. Explosions rocked the battlefield as the Allies advanced, pushing the Vucari back. Inside the bunker, Hawkins confronted the Vucari warlord, a towering figure of menace and brutality. The final showdown was brutal and intense, but Hawkins's resolve never wavered. With a combination of skill and sheer willpower, he struck down the warlord, breaking the back of the Vucari command structure. The moment the warlord fell, the Vucari forces began to crumble. Their cohesion shattered, and the Allied forces pressed the advantage. The battle for Centaur raged on, but the tide had turned irrevocably in favor of the resistance. As the dust settled and the smoke cleared, the Allied fleet stood victorious. The Vucari armada was in ruins, and their empire was left in disarray. Hawkins looked out over the battlefield, a sense of accomplishment washing over him. The cost had been high, but they had done it. They had freed the galaxy from the Vucari tyranny. Kos approached Hawkins, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Captain, you have saved not just the Thean people, but countless others across the stars. Your courage and leadership have given us all a chance at a better future." Hawkins smiled, though the weight of the losses they had endured was evident in his eyes. "We did this together, Kos. Humanity and our allies will continue to stand against any threat that seeks to enslave and oppress. The galaxy is free today, and we will ensure it remains that way." The Indomitable, though scarred from battle, remained a symbol of hope and defiance. As the Allied forces began to rebuild and restore peace across the liberated worlds, Hawkins and his crew knew their work was far from over. They would remain vigilant, ready to defend the freedoms they had fought so hard to secure. In the end, the story of Captain James Hawkins and the Indomitable became a legend, a beacon of hope in the darkest times, inspiring future generations to stand up against tyranny and fight for what is right. The galaxy, united by their shared struggle and triumph, looked toward a future of peace and prosperity, forever grateful for the bravery and sacrifice of those who had fought to make it possible. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. For every comment that says we will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.